Welcome back to the comment section. I'm Brett Cooper.
Hello there.
Welcome back to the comment section. I'm Brett Cooper.
Hello there.
So I think we all could acknowledge this, but there is basically sex in every corner of our society right now. I mean, like at this point, half of our social media is just soft porn content or some kind of promotion for a chick's OnlyFans. Not to mention the sex scenes in movies and TV shows are unescapable. They're like every 10 minutes. And the fact that women, normal women just walking around America, have been told that being scantily clad is actually empowering, while simultaneously shaming men when they look at these scantily clad women and lust after them in public when they are walking around half naked.
That makes sense to me.
Does not make sense, but it is a real problem in our society. And I can't believe that I'm saying this, but Anons on X and on 4chan might be doing the most to solve this problem, and we're going to talk about it today. Before we do, though, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you've not already, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss a comment section episode or one of our live streams. All right, so there's a new hashtag and a trend going around called DignifAI, like dignify, like that. And it's where people online are using AI tools to take scantily clad women online, take their photos, and make them cover up and look more modest. My producer, Bobby, sent me this article, and the entire time I was reading it, I was just cracking up because the concept is just beautiful and simple, and it's a troll, but it's kind of a nice troll that's good for society, which is probably why it's really taken off. So this article is from Fandom Pulse, and they wrote, hashtag DignifAI puts the pants back on women. Hoes mad about the AI sexual revolution. I love topics like this. It is so good. Hoes mad any day makes me happy. Okay, so they gave a little backstory in this article and said on January 31st, 2024, an anonymous user on 4chan's poll board called for a campaign to use an AI code, DignifAI, to edit pictures of provocatively dressed women online, ensuring that they are more clothed and adhere to a traditional ideal of women. This digital modesty initiative gained traction, and on February 2nd, 2024, the hashtag DignifAI began trending on Twitter. Dun dun dun! Hoes are about to get mad.
Hoes mad!
Here is one of the original posts that sparked this whole trend. So obviously you can see this girl has a ton of tattoos. They cleaned her up, basically just made her look a little more traditional. This one, it's less about the clothes. There's a lot of them where it's women's just like bare asses out on screen and they put like a whole outfit on. This one is just more about the tattoos. So this guy said, with the power of AI, we will clothe the Insta thoughts. We will purify AI them of their tattoos. We will liberate them of their piercings. We will lengthen their skirts. We will piggyback off of the outrage around AI porn and commit unrelenting psychological warfare to our own ends. We will show them the lives that they will never have. We will force them to gaze upon the image of true beauty reclaimed from their own corrupted visage. We will bring decency back into the world, one seething roasty at a time. I mean, Shakespeare? Like, is that you, Aristotle, Thomas Jefferson? Like, these words should be written in stone. So anyway, this really took off a few days after that when Jack Posobiec posted about the trend on Twitter. And within days, his tweet had 15 million impressions, and it seriously got people talking. He said 4chan has launched a new AI tool. Its purpose is to put clothes back on e-girls and remove tattoos. It is called DignifAI. And he just posted a few examples you can see here, like there's a girl in lingerie, put her in a dress. A girl posing in a mirror, put on a dress. There's one wearing something that looks like a rope to a club. I don't know. Now, obviously, the chicks were pissed, aka
Hoes mad!
Now, I got all of these comments from one long thread where they had compiled all of these women that were seething about this thing. It was so funny. But honestly, guys, I think it really sheds a light on how modern women feel about a lot of men, which is not really funny. But anyway, let's get into it. One person said, I actually despise that I have to live on this earth with males. I want them all wiped out. Somebody else said, this is super weird and creepy. It betrays a deep contempt towards women being aware of their own sexual desirability. Modesty culture is often not so subtly about enforcing control over women's sexual autonomy, and therefore men getting to eroticize women against their will. How is a man taking a naked woman, basically naked, in her underwear, putting a dress on her, eroticizing her? She was eroticizing herself at the beginning. Like, you are genuinely angry that men online are not going to be looking at you like a piece of meat anymore. That's something that you are really concerned with. Like, the only meat that I'm concerned with is my Good Ranchers meat. Now, everyone knows that it is a daily challenge to not only find meals that taste good, but also ensure that they keep us on the path to a healthy lifestyle. Every time I stroll down those grocery store aisles, I feel like it is a struggle to find foods that really align with my health goals. So 2 years ago, I decided to stop settling for subpar options, and I switched to Good Ranchers for all of my meat shopping. And let me tell you, working with Good Ranchers and shopping with Good Ranchers has been the best decision I have ever made for my meal prep and for my health. Good Ranchers makes cooking and grocery shopping less of a mundane task and more of an exciting opportunity to craft meals that contribute to your overall well-being. And I've said this before, but my favorite product from Good Ranchers that I literally eat like 4 times a week is their pre-trimmed chicken breasts. Now, not only does their chicken have no antibiotics, but it also has no hormones or vaccines. And if you're buying regular chicken breasts from the grocery store, those are things that you can't really confirm. And right now, you can get this amazing chicken completely free. And this deal only applies to my comment section community. Good Ranchers was running this fantastic New Year, New Meat offer where they were giving away free chicken for a year, but that offer expired on January 31st. For everyone except you guys, my viewers. So this is an exclusive offer for my viewers only. You will not find it anywhere else. So to redeem this offer to get a year of chicken free, subscribe to any of their boxes and use my code Cooper at checkout. Good Ranchers will then add over 2 pounds of free chicken breasts to every order you receive for the next year. So there is literally no reason to wait. Try the best chicken in America today. Visit goodranchers.com and use code Cooper at checkout for your free chicken for a year. Again, that is goodranchers.com and use code Cooper. And do not worry, that meat comes packaged and frozen, ready to go, unlike the hoes online, because we know their meat is never packaged up. Another commenter posted this quote and said, "To be male is to be deficient, emotionally limited. Male was and is a deficiency disease, and males are emotional cripples." Hear that, Jared? You're getting depressed over there in the corner. You are a disease, apparently. Men hate women so much. This is evil technology. Really, in the grand scheme of the internet, I think this is honestly very mild, my friend. Another girl said, "I literally hate men more and more each day. I'm so serious. For clothing you? Like, come on. It is a joking, trolling trend online that is quite literally harmless." Now, one girl did make a good point, and she said, "Women who dressed modestly are getting unclothed with AI, while those who dressed immodestly are getting clothed with AI. This paradox reflects the control men seek over women's attire, regardless of modesty." Now, that first part, I obviously see that that is a problem. I've spoken about that before. The AI porn, the AI photos that are created and released without somebody's consent, those are disgusting. Those should be taken seriously. That is a breach of privacy. But you have to see that those two things are not the same. Somebody online taking your already basically nude picture and throwing a dress on you, a dress that looks like they just picked it up from Target, that's triggering? Like, come on. Like, go touch grass. This is seriously not a big deal. It's honestly very funny. Now, even though this is a funny trend on 4chan and Twitter, it also speaks to the bigger cultural issue of modesty and what is empowering for women and what men find attractive. Because women have been told that dressing immodestly is not only empowering for women, but it also is the best way to attract a man. You have to go out to a club and wear basically no clothing. You have to strip down. You have to post attention-seeking photos on Instagram, and that's when they'll like you and they'll take you seriously. Lies. And we know they're lies from 4chan. And what I'm learning from these guys on 4chan is that they want women to be clothed. They want them to be modest. They're tired of promiscuous hoes walking around and putting their boobs and asses online for everyone to see. And some of the posts on 4chan, guys, they're actually kind of profound, to be honest. Like, look at the comment under this one. We're going to look at the picture first. So they took a girl holding a dog. She's in a bikini, and they instead put her in a dress holding a baby. And this guy said, "Something about this image hits really deep. It's like a visual synthesis of all that has been lost. A meme in the truest original sense of the word. I feel like if it evokes such a feeling in me, then the effect must be multiplied manyfold for the target audience. And I suspect that is why it is getting such a visceral reaction. Though it's a cliche, a picture really does sometimes say 1,000 words." I mean, 4chan, come on, this is good.
Hi everybody, my name is Amala Epinobi, she, her, hers. And before we get into today's video, I must issue you a trigger warning. Today's video contains communication about racism, racial stereotyping, blackface, and more. If you feel as though you will be triggered by these elements, please do not proceed in watching this video. If you feel as though you can handle these elements, continue watching, but watch at your own risk of being offended. And with that being said, trigger warning culture needs to go. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into today's video, please give this video a like if you are in the same boat with me and thinking that trigger warning culture has gotten a little bit too out of control. I feel as though nowadays I am getting trigger warnings at every single turn. I see it on places like TikTok, social media platforms, it's in movies, in media. Many of you speak to getting trigger warnings in the classroom, and I have to ask myself whether or not we've gone too far with trigger warning culture and whether or not it actually helps us at all. And just in case you're unfamiliar with trigger warnings, or you haven't been seeing them everywhere like I have, it's essentially a little little bit of a disclaimer before you get into maybe a video, a piece of writing, reading a book, where it warns you of potentially distressing things that you will find within the piece of media that you're consuming. These trigger warnings will essentially tell you that there's something that could be possibly traumatic within this video or possibly offensive within a video, and that you should proceed at your own risk, just to let you know that it's there. And logically, I can understand why people do this. There are many people who have experienced traumatic events, or they are offended by certain things, and they prefer to be warned before watching something that contains those triggers. But we have to ask ourselves whether or not this is right or reasonable. And as I said before, I am running into these trigger warnings more and more, and for sillier and sillier things. If you decide to maybe use your free time to say go and watch a classic Disney movie, you might get a trigger warning / disclaimer at the top of that movie. These are now being shown for films like Aladdin, The Aristocats, Dumbo, Lady and the Tramp, Peter Pan, so on and so forth. And this is essentially a trigger warning / disclaimer that Disney is putting out on their films to let you know that there's racial stereotyping. Let's read it. It says, "This program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together. Disney is committed to creating stories with inspirational and aspirational themes that reflect the rich diversity of the human experience around the globe. To learn more about how stories have impacted society, visit this website." Now, in one way, this is Disney absolving themselves of responsibility when it comes to the stereotypes featured in this film so that they can continue to promote them to the audience, but it also functions as a warning that you could be offended by what you're about to see. And I have to say, if you are overwhelmingly offended by something like Aladdin or Peter Pan or the Aristocats, you gotta have a taste of the real world, because the real world is going to offend you so much more than something that you find in an old Disney cartoon. And it doesn't stop there. Let's say you want to watch an episode of Mad Men, which is a TV drama series following the scandalous lives of the 1960s ad men, featuring John Hamm as Don Draper. You'll eventually get to an episode where there is a depiction of a character in blackface, as that particular episode is set in 1963, where blackface was largely acceptable. Instead of trusting the audience to understand the context, you will get this disclaimer before watching. Quote, "This episode contains disturbing images related to race in America. One of the characters is shown in blackface as part of an episode that shows how commonplace racism was in America in 1963. In its reliance on historical authenticity, the series producers are committed to exposing the injustices and inequities within our society that continue to this day, so that we can examine even the most painful parts of our history in order to reflect on who we are today and who we want to become. We are therefore presenting the original episode in its entirety." Stunning and brave, truly. Now again, if you are too triggered or offended to watch something that is a historical depiction of something that happened in 1963, then maybe watching TV and media is not for you. Are we now going to create a trigger warning for every horrible thing that has ever been done historically that is now being depicted in modern day media? I hope not. But there are more and more examples of this happening. I saw this tweet the other day. Heidi tweeted out, "I'm watching Blazing Saddles for the first time, and this lady comes on before the movie to tell me the entire plot of the movie and how it ends, while warning me about the racist language and how provocative it is." And there's a photo of the woman. I decided to investigate this. So I go on to Max, I click Blazing Saddles, and there it is, a woman explaining the entirety of the plot before you get into the movie to warn you about how racist some of the characters are. Even though the racism that is depicted in the movie Blazing Saddles is meant to be overcome, as that is the whole point of the film itself. Not only that, the film is so clearly satirical, and she even takes the time to explain that before you get to watch the movie. Do you want to have a movie spoiled before you go in to watch it so that they can warn you about the racism or sexism or homophobia that you're about to witness? I don't. I trust myself to be able to interpret the things that I'm seeing with my own eyes, to use my intellect to come to a conclusion about whether or not something is right or wrong. The issue is that these corporations, companies, social media content creators, classroom teachers don't trust you to be able to do that yourself. Right now, it seems like the focus of our culture is to stop people from being triggered or offended, when in my opinion, I think it's far more important to reinforce people, have them be less sensitive. You have to be stronger, because in reality, the world is full of triggers and you are going to come across them whether you like it or not. And when it comes to being sensitive to certain stimuli, it's probably best to confront it. Now, I'm not going to get into those extreme cases of triggers where maybe it is recommended by a therapist that you do receive warnings. I will leave that to the professionals. I'm talking about this new culture where we are overly sensitive and it seems like every single regard, and we must give warnings for things that otherwise would be pretty benign. Everybody has things that they're offended by.
Evidently, that's one of their triggers.
Everybody has things that they are triggered by. Imagine if we got warnings for each and every one of those things. We would be so inundated with these messages that we would never get the chance to consume actual media. Yet we've built a whole system of these warnings surrounding sort of woke left trigger points. And not only that, it seems as though there's a ton of evidence to suggest that these trigger warnings don't even achieve what they
Mortal Kombat 1, the poorly named newest entry in the long-running classic fighting game series that sold like hotcakes on release. Back in September of last year, this instant hit was a title that the world couldn't stop talking about, thus translating into quick sales and people clamouring to play this gory game. While this was certainly the case, you might have noticed that interest in this one has dropped off at an incredible pace. With only months after this game's release, it's seeming like no one cares about this title anymore. So with all of that said, what in the Earth realm is going on here? Hello ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy Top Hat here. This is why Mortal Kombat 1 is in trouble. Yeah!
Get over here!
Fighting games, fighting games, fighting games. We have seen some huge releases lately, with Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1 and Tekken 8 all arriving on the scene in fairly quick succession. Out of these entries, Tekken 8 is currently the one that no one will shut up about, which helped get me thinking about Street Fighter 6 and the lack of publicity, appreciation and attention it is getting at present. In fact, earlier this week I uploaded a video titled Street Fighter 6 is in trouble, which included myself going over the various reasons as to why the casual market appears to have quickly lost interest in this game, with many early adopters no longer playing this one at all. Not ideal really for Capcom when they have continuously labelled it as a service game, a title that they expect players to keep going back to, making new in-game purchases to extract maximum profit from the game. With many enjoying this upload and a lot of people agreeing with the issues I raised, lots of people would still point out that the situation that Mortal Kombat 1 is in being even worse, with every problem Street Fighter 6 is currently facing being magnified in the case of a NetherRealm Studios American produced game multiple times over. So with that said, let's discuss Mortal Kombat 1's current lack of popularity and the crazy statistics that show that a far greater number of players have kicked this one to the curb comparatively to Street Fighter 6. In order to do this, we first have to look at what we know about the sales of this video game. According to Capcom Corporate on the investor relations section of their website, they have recently reported that as of January 2024, that they have sold over 3 million units worldwide. Interestingly though, it appears that Mortal Kombat 1 may have achieved even greater sales numbers, or matched Street Fighter 6 at the very least. During a Warner Bros. Discovery earnings call back in November, it would be disclosed that Mortal Kombat 1 had already sold close to 3 million units, despite only seeing release 6 weeks prior to this call being made. This provides evidence that potentially far more people rushed to play Mortal Kombat 1 than Street Fighter 6, which makes the other stats we are about to look at even more alarming, especially considering this is meant to be a service game. To give us an idea on the ongoing interest around these games, a good indicator we can analyse are the Steam statistics. At its all-time peak around its launch window, an incredible 70,573 players were enjoying Street Fighter 6 concurrently, whereas by nearly only a third of that number played Mortal Kombat 1 concurrently, resulting in a much more humble 26,576 peak. What makes this all the more crazy is that the sales figures suggest that way more people purchased Mortal Kombat 1 at launch. But it doesn't seem that the game's audience who purchased this game necessarily had much interest in actually playing it. The difference between the figures of those who enjoy the two games has only gotten greater as time has progressed, even though Street Fighter 6 is 3 months older of the two. At the time of writing, currently over 10 times as many people are opting to play Street Fighter 6 as they are Mortal Kombat. That's right, you heard me. 10 times the amount of people are opting to play one of these games over the other, even though the one less people are playing potentially sold better. In the previous 24 hours, Street Fighter has hit a 19,121 person peak, with Mortal Kombat achieving only an embarrassing 1,721 peak. As for those playing right at the moment of me saying this, 13,447 people are playing Street Fighter 6 right now, with only 1,273 playing Mortal Kombat. Now here's where it gets even more insane. Let's cover the number of people interested in watching other people play these games. We currently have 15,000 people watching people playing Street Fighter 6 on Twitch right now, with a dreadful 219 people watching Mortal Kombat 1. Even I've hit better streaming numbers than that in the past, and I'm not even a streamer. People really don't give a crap anymore about this game, which raises the question, why? Well, personally, I believe there is a whole multitude of reasons behind this consumer behaviour. So let me give you some of my honest conjecture. First and foremost, let's address the reasoning behind why people chose to play and become fans of these franchises in the first place. Street Fighter appreciation would first blow up after the success of Street Fighter 2, the first ever fighting game to feature a large, interesting character roster and a deep and innovative
rom-coms go? When I was a kid, my favorite stories were love stories. Not the dramatic ones or the sweaty ones, but the ones that could make me laugh and cry. The characters were simple, the plots were convoluted, but it was also endearing that even when I knew every plot twist and punchline, I could rewatch them again and again.
And nowadays, you don't really have a choice since we stopped making them.
Or at least it feels that way. But is it true? To figure it out, we are diving into the history of rom-coms, finding the factors that decides if a film gets made,
then there's no movie at all.
And even writing one of our own.
My heart started beating a little bit.
Thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring a portion of this video, and to our patrons for supporting the channel. Okay, context. Back in the 2010s, there was this growing sentiment that romantic comedy movies were a dying breed. The golden age of rom-coms that started in the late 80s, early 90s, and blossomed in the 2000s was over. All we had left was Friends with Benefits, and Friends with Benefits Ashton Kutcher edition. And this is devastating for people like me who love good rom-coms. So I want to figure out what it's gonna take to bring them back. But it's been a while since I learned about this in the mid-2010s, so I should probably start by checking if rom-coms are really gone. Luckily, the movie database API exists, so I quickly coded some calls to find every rom-com movie made since 1990, and apparently, they never died. However, we don't actually care about the sheer number of romantic comedies being made, we care about the number of good ones. To try and quantify that idea, I looked for patterns in rom-coms I've heard of in order to find some combination of votes and ratings to draw a lower bound. The least good rom-com that is still good enough. Once I figured that out, it was obvious that rom-coms had died, but it also became clear that rom-coms are back. Check this out. The 1990s was near the beginning of this trend of making more and more rom-coms, until the whole thing peaked in the mid-2000s. Now this can be easily explained through budget and revenue. There were a lot of early low-budget rom-coms that made massive gains. But over time, despite consistent spending, there were diminishing returns. And that's despite pretty consistent ratings. All of that led to the very real lull in rom-coms in the mid-2000s. But if you look past that into 2018, you could see that rom-coms are back with massive titles like Crazy Rich Asians, To All the Boys I Loved Before, and The Princess Switch. Now 2020 slowed everything down, including rom-coms, but I can't help but wonder if those last few years of the 2010s were just this short blip, this short-lived revival, or a signal that rom-coms are coming back for good. I figure the answer lay in why rom-coms died in the first place. Sure, they were making less money, but how did that happen? Because if the genre found a way to solve these problems, then there's a good chance that the revival is gonna stick. So, after looking through old articles, but mostly just watching some of the best and worst rom-coms of the past 30 years, I have a theory. So I rearranged my whole apartment, set up a teleprompter, and memorized the aesthetic and speech patterns of video essayists in order to tell you why rom-coms died. Many have tried to blame it on the shortage of leading women and men in the modern rom-com era. Back when we had Julia Roberts and Tom Hanks, it was easy to convince audiences to watch their favorite white people fall in love. Unfortunately, when they left the genre to avoid being typecast, audiences struggled to connect with their replacements. But I think that lack of connection goes deeper than just celebrities. I think that rom-coms have a fatal flaw. A romantic comedy is a modernization of the fairy tale love story. Characters always have enough money working jobs that are either ridiculously fake or clearly written by someone who has no idea what a corporate job entails. In 2 weeks' notice, Sandra Bullock is the head of legal for a billion-dollar New York City real estate corporation, and her main job is stapling. Apartments are massive, morals are unquestioned, and everyone is hot. Rom-coms were unburdened by reality, which makes for fantastic escapism, until there's nowhere left to run. I think the fundamental flaw of rom-coms is that you can't underpin the story with realistic drama. It's too heavy. So, stakes need to come from concept. What if she falls in love with a voice? What if he's stuck in a time loop? What if she forgets every day? What if he is asleep? Unreliable narrators and quick banter made it easy to get all of the tension from the concepts without any of the horrifying implications. But as the genre boomed and audiences became more sophisticated, some concepts were too familiar, and others were difficult to look past. Eventually, there was only one place left to go: reality. From Knocked Up to Silver Linings Playbook, these rom-coms had the courage to ask, what if rom-coms weren't funny or romantic? I'm sorry, that is so mean. That's so mean. Okay, I should be clear. That novelty probably contributed to these movies' successes, and they were successful. But at what cost? The best rom-coms Hollywood had to offer were barely rom-coms at all. The fairy tale was over, which is why I thought Hollywood killed it off. Until I found this book like 2 days after I formed that theory, and I'm gonna let him speak for himself.
My name is Scott Meslow, and I am the author of a book called From Hollywood with Love, The Rise and Fall and Rise Again of the Romantic Comedy. I think the story of the death of the rom-com is really the story of the death of the mid-budget studio movie. When it started to become every $200 million superhero movie also needs to be part of a cinematic universe and make $1 billion ideally and pave the way for the next $1 billion grosser. We're gonna make those kinds of movies, and we're gonna only bet on those home runs. When it comes to rom-coms, a genre that, must be said, has always been sort of uniquely devalued by Hollywood for all of the depressing reasons you'd expect. It was easy to scapegoat them as the movies that were getting uniquely devalued in this larger trend happening in Hollywood.
After all that media theorized,
Russia. It is beneficial and safe. So he took the relevant position despite promising his people to end the war in Ukraine. He deceived his voters.
But do you think at this point, as of February 2024, he has the latitude, the freedom to speak with you or your government directly about putting an end to this, which clearly isn't helping his country or the world?
Worth quickly noting, Putin here basically suggested, hey, it's easier for Zelensky to align with the US and to kind of turn a blind eye to neo-Nazis because that will keep him in power. That's what Putin is alleging of Zelensky.
Can he do that, do you think?
Why not? He considers himself head of state. He won the elections. Although we believe in Russia that the coup d'etat is the primary source of power for everything that happened after 2014. And in this sense, even today, government is flawed. But he considers himself the president, and he is recognized by the United States, all of Europe, and practically the rest of the world in such a capacity. Why not? He can. We negotiated with Ukraine in Istanbul. We agreed. He was aware of this. Moreover, the negotiation group leader, Mr. Arhamia is his last name, I believe still heads the faction of the ruling party, the party of the president in the Rada. He still heads the presidential faction in the Rada, the country's parliament. He still sits there. He even put his preliminary signature on the document I am telling you about. But then he publicly
The following is an interview with the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, shot February 6, 2024 at about 7 p.m. in the building behind us, which is, of course, the Kremlin. The interview, as you will see if you watch it, is primarily about the war in progress, the war in Ukraine, how it started, what's happening, and most pressingly, how it might end. One note before you watch. At the beginning of the interview, we asked the most obvious question, which is, why did you do this? Did you feel a threat, an imminent physical threat? And that's your justification. And the answer we got shocked us. Putin went on for a very long time, probably half an hour, about the history of Russia going back to the 8th century. And honestly, we thought this was a filibustering technique and found it annoying and interrupted him several times. And he responded he was annoyed by the interruption. But we concluded in the end, for what it's worth, that it was not a filibustering technique. There was no time limit on the interview. We ended it after more than 2 hours. Instead, what you're about to see seemed to us sincere, whether you agree with it or not. Vladimir Putin believes that Russia has a historic claim to parts of Western Ukraine. So our opinion would be to view it in that light, as a sincere expression of what he thinks. And with that, here it is. Mr. President, thank you. On February 22nd, 2022, you addressed your country in a nationwide address when the conflict in Ukraine started. And you said that you were acting because you had come to the conclusion that the United States, through NATO, might initiate a, quote, surprise attack on our country. And to American ears, that sounds paranoid. Tell us why you believe the United States might strike Russia out of the blue. How did you conclude that?
It's not that America, the United States, was going to launch a surprise strike on Russia. I didn't say that. Are we having a talk show or a serious conversation?
Here's the quote. Thank you. It's a formidable, serious talk.
Because your basic education is in history, as far as I understand.
Yes.
So if you don't mind, I will take only 30 seconds or 1 minute to give you a short reference to history for giving you a little historical background.
Please.
Let's look where our relationship with Ukraine started from. Where did Ukraine come from? The Russian state started gathering itself as a centralized statehood, and it is considered to be the year of the establishment of the Russian state in 862, when the townspeople of Novgorod invited a Varangian prince, Rurik, from Scandinavia to reign. In 1862, Russia celebrated the 1000th anniversary of its statehood. And in Novgorod, there is a memorial dedicated to the 1000th anniversary of the country. In 882, Rurik's successor, Prince Oleg, who was actually playing the role of regent at Rurik's younger son, because Rurik had died by that time, came to Kiev. He ousted two brothers who apparently had once been members of Rurik's squad. So Russia began to develop with two centers of power, Kiev and Novgorod. The next very significant date in the history of Russia was 988. This was the baptism of Russia, when Prince Vladimir, the great-grandson of Rurik, baptized Russia and adopted Orthodoxy, or Eastern Christianity. From this time, the centralized Russian state began to strengthen. Why? Because of the single territory, integrated economic ties, one and the same language, and, after the baptism of Russia, the same faith and rule of the prince. The centralized Russian state began to take shape. Back in the Middle Ages, Prince Yaroslav the Wise introduced the order of succession to a throne. But after he passed away, it became complicated for various reasons. The throne was passed not directly from father to eldest son, but from the prince who had passed away to his brother, then to his sons in different lines. All this led to the fragmentation and the end of Rus as a single state. There was nothing special about it. The same was happening then in Europe. But the fragmented Russian state became an easy prey to the empire created earlier by Genghis Khan. His successors, namely Batu Khan, came to Rus, plundered and ruined nearly all the cities. The southern part, including Kiev, by the way, and some other cities, simply lost independence, while northern cities preserved some of their sovereignty. They had to pay tribute to the horde, but they managed to preserve some part of their sovereignty.
So Johnny Depp is winning so big right now that the media, they are having an absolute meltdown in this, so it is glorious. Now what makes this even better is that their meltdown, it just fuels the winning too, to the tune of almost 50 million views being pushed to one post about this subject alone. I mean, the win is big enough that you have people across all divides, social and political, that are actually agreeing on the same topic. I mean, here, Brian, for example, with his 806,000 followers, is agreeing with the likes of Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson, by the way, has over 5 million followers brought to the table on this. Yeah, you're talking about people that can't agree on how to chew bubblegum the right way, but they can agree on this. Now, this, of course, has led to this subject dominating trending when it comes to entertainment. You have half a dozen trending topics, from no Johnny, no pirates, to Elon Musk, Disney, Johnny Depp, and more. Yeah, the media, they don't know what to do with this type of winning. I mean, they've been trying for over a year now to try to take the man's career down. They've tried to push this replacement and more. It's not flying. You and I, we're going to laugh at them together today. Oh man, this is fun times. This is fun times indeed. All right, so hey there to all you fine folks on this fine day. By the way, I hope you are doing excellently. Man, the media, they are melting down, and it is glorious to watch as Johnny Depp, he continues to stack up those wins as everyone calls out Disney, because without Johnny Depp, without Captain Jack Sparrow, there is no Pirates of the Caribbean. Mark that, what I said there. No pirates without Johnny Depp. Now, what really got the media worked up was this post right here. This is Elon Musk replying to Unlimited Else. Give them a follow as well, noting that Disney is considering Ayo Edebiri as a replacement for Johnny Depp in Pirates 6. Disney is reportedly considering Ayo Edebiri for the leading role in Pirates 6, a film that would feature a younger cast of pirates in search of hidden treasure. Now, Elon Musk, he commented on this. He was like, man, Disney sucks. And they do, by the way. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting behavior on their part, considering we're not just talking about a reboot movie here. We're talking about a replacement of Johnny Depp. I mean, this guy, he was the aggrieved party. We all saw it play out live. We saw what Amber Heard did. And yet, they're still standing behind this idea that Margot Robbie pitched. Well, what's driving the media crazy on this is how big this has become. I mean, if you look at the traffic on it right now, 49.1 million views and climbing. In fact, if we were to refresh this live right now, we're already up to 50 million views since I started talking about this recording. So in the last 5 minutes, we picked up 900,000 embedded views and counting. And instead of being honest about this subject, the media, who can't stand Johnny Depp winning, they respond exactly like you would expect. In fact, I said yesterday, this was what they were going to do. And I said before, I expected this path to be the one that Disney and all their shills would follow. They point the finger at everyone, but especially Elon Musk, and they say, oh, you're doing this because you're ists. You're sexist, you're racist, not because an aggrieved party that the world saw in Johnny Depp is being treated so terribly by the company that he made billions of dollars. I mean, check this article out here. There are a bunch of these right now. Quote, Elon Musk accused of racism and sexism by defending Johnny Depp against Disney. The Tesla CEO complained about rumors that Disney is moving forward with a woman lead in Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, he said simply, Disney sucks. That's the only thing that he said there. And what does this do? This triggers floods of articles because they know right now we are in uncharted waters, as it were, and we're not talking about pirate sequels. See, the real win in this isn't the response to this rumor. And I love how people, they treat all of this like it isn't true when we know for sure that the Pirates of the Caribbean reboot, the all-female casting, yeah, that was indeed planned. They did want Margot Robbie to replace Johnny Depp, so that is not a rumor. But when you look at people that agree on this, I mean, we're talking about folks that can't agree on anything else in life. I mean, again, you have people like Brian here. Brian, and again, it's not just Brian that's part of the conversation. It's all the people that are following Brian. Right now, we're talking about 806,500 plus people and counting. Well, he finds himself in agreement with Dr. Jordan Peterson. Never thought I would see the two of them agree on anything, but as far as Johnny Depp winning Pirates of the Caribbean and Pirates
Oh, I've done it. I've created the ultimate online video. I watched every YouTube video, but because I thought that Mr. Beast would do that very thing, I decided to do him one better. I watched every YouTube video and counted every pixel on every frame of every video. And guess what? I still thought that Jimmy might do that, so I decided to do him one better. I did it all in 24 hours, and I'll give away $100,000 to every viewer of that video. I've done it. I've done it. It's unbreakable. It's unbeatable. No one can ever outdo me. I've outbeasted the beast. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the superlative channel for overthinking all your favorite things on the internet. Today on Matt Pat Talks About Topics I'm Thinking About Instead of a Game Theory, we're gonna be talking about phases. We all go through phases, right? We wear different stuff, we watch different things, and on YouTube, we make different content. For the last 3 years, YouTube has been going through what I'm calling the era of excess. And I probably don't have to explain to you exactly what I mean by that. You pretty much know it when you see it. The title has the word every in it every time. I tried every food from every state. I tried every impossible sport. Mythical has a format called We Tried Every, where they try every flavor of a thing. The Try Guys have Keith Eats the Menu, where he tries every item on a restaurant menu. Eric tries every drive-thru. Eddie Burback goes to every Margaritaville. Matthew Beam goes to every Disneyland, where Alpharad rides every ride. Drew Binsky visited all 197 countries, while Markiplier just tries every flavor of Taki. I mean, he actually just licked every flavor of Takis. It's a bit disturbing there, Mark. Even more disturbing than your trailer for Iron Lung. Anyway, you see where I'm going with this. It's every trend that you see everywhere on the platform. Not to be overlooked though, this phase also includes what I call the nice round number syndrome, which contains a big old number with a dollar sign in front, and the numbers just keep getting bigger. While MrBeast has certainly been the one mainstreaming this recently, nice round numbers, they've been making titles and thumbnails more clickable since 2012, when top 10s and top 5 lists dominated the entire YouTube ecosystem. And once you know it, but clickable numbers become even more clickable once they're associated with money, leading to all your favorite giveaway and comparison videos. The numbers evolved from top 10s to top hundreds to $100, and then we started adding zeros from there. Many zeros. Now we have $1 stake versus $1,000 stake, $1 versus $100,000 computers, $1 houses versus $100 million houses, and of course the all-time classic, I gave a random person on the street $100,000 for the clout. I mean, obviously there's some vague reason, but we all know what the underpinning of it is, right? It's the clout. We've seen $10,000 ice cream, the world's biggest pizza, and we've watched Casey Neistat recline his way through every expensive Emirati flight on the planet. It's great. Clearly we all love it and watch it, otherwise the algorithm wouldn't serve it up to you on a silver platter, but I'm here to tell you that there's a hidden cost to these videos, and no amount of dollar signs and zeros is ever gonna do it justice. The interesting thing about excess videos is that they're not just about the superlative of something or trying something nicer than average, they're a constant, unwinnable game of escalation. We already ate the biggest burger at one restaurant, so, then we had to escalate. We had to eat the biggest burger at every restaurant, but once you do that, where else do you go? Well, then you have to eat at every restaurant that ever serves a burger. You get the idea. I'm sure if I asked you why we like this sort of content so much, there are some easy answers that come to mind. It's satisfying. You get to see things that are too expensive to buy for yourself. Maybe it's funny to see people try crazy stuff. All of that is very true, but there's also a lot more boiling under the surface of our excess addiction on YouTube. Understanding the psychology of why you're watching these videos might make you think twice about when to click on them and when to keep scrolling. Today we're talking about where this era of excess comes from, where it's going, and why you should know for your own mental health. It's probably no surprise to you that watching content on the internet, any content, even this sort of content, is doing all sorts of things to your brain. In a nutshell, consuming content online when you're scrolling on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, or Instagram activates neuronal pathways in your brain that are commonly known as reward pathways. You scroll and ooh, a new thing to see. Scroll again and ooh, another new thing to see. Forever and ever, endlessly to the end of time. And each time your brain gets a little happy response to seeing something novel, something funny, something beautiful or interesting. All the things that we try to make our content look like online. These happy feelings come from your brain's dopamine reward pathway, and they're the same ones that get activated when someone hands you an ice cream sundae, or the feeling that you get when you beat a level in a video game. Years ago, we actually did a video on this channel all about the addictive qualities of games like Candy Crush, which is just as relevant today for social media as it was back then for mobile gaming addiction. In case you haven't seen it, I'm gonna summarize it quickly. When it comes to consuming content, unfortunately, we're going in with the deck stacked against us, starting with the literal brain inside our own heads. Biologically, our brains have been wired from the beginning to find
I think it was an arranged marriage.
I did something that really hurt him, damaged the idea of me for you.
Yeah, I think so too.
Baby, I wasn't trying!
Don't touch me right now.
Go ahead, don't fall, don't fall! Oh my god!
If you weren't so hot, I would have got rid of you a long time ago.
It sucks that the tour was
I just answered she was asking me. Huh?
I just was saying that you were taking all the necessary...
Listen to me, woman.
Let's get into it. This podcast episode is sponsored by Squarespace. They are an all-in-one website platform that you can use to sell your products. Whether they are services, physical items, or digital goods, Squarespace has the tools to build you your own custom website and handle all of the transactions. Their site offers a payment processing system to track your progress and to report on profits. On top of handling the nitty-gritty, Squarespace can help elevate the look and feel of your brand with their customized website templates. Squarespace also has the tools and widgets to categorize your products and sell them exactly your way. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Sloan to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring this episode, and enjoy. Welcome back to the Let's Get Into It podcast with me, Sloan. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber's relationship because their marriage is questionable for several reasons. I mean, starting off, she kind of stalked him as a fan before becoming his girlfriend. And then there were issues between him, her, and Selena Gomez, which we all know about. And then in recent years, since they've been married, it kind of seems like Justin hates Hailey. Like he kind of resents her. So I think a lot of fans can tell that their dynamic doesn't really make sense and neither of them seem happy. Now, 6 months into their marriage, we saw some major red flags because they were doing an interview with Vogue and we were supposed to see this happy newlywed couple express their love in an interview. I mean, first off, Hailey is explaining that marriage is very hard for them. It's effing hard, she continues, which I feel like she should be the happiest wife in the world because she stalked him for like a decade before actually getting to him. Justin says, I've made some bad decisions personally and in relationships. It's been difficult for me to trust Hailey. We've been working through stuff and it's great, right? He questions. Here's a clip of them from that interview.
I did something that really hurt him. I did something very immature and stupid. It damaged the idea of me for you.
Yeah, I think so too.
She went out and did things that hurt me. And so it was just this hurt. She hurt me. And then before tour, we just really stopped talking. I was really upset. And rather than, before that in my previous relationship, I went off and just went crazy and went wild, just was, being reckless. Yeah, I got better. And so she would reach out to people that were like, that we knew. And she would get like these, you'd hear, like, oh, he's doing so well. And she would be so pissed off because she's like, he's not doing well without me. Facts. Yeah. Right?
So let's go back to where it all began. Hailey and Justin met for the first time in 2009, becoming, quote, friends, but not more than just acquaintances. We saw a lot of early photos of when Justin was famous, and then Hailey Baldwin was there just in the crowd, somehow very close to him. So she had her eye on him for a long time. But a few years later, the two future lovers met again at Justin's documentary premiere of Never Say Never. During that time, Justin was dating Selena Gomez. Their beloved relationship had all the support from all believers and everyone who kept track of celebrity news. And that being the case, Justin was very content with Selena at the time, so he wasn't interested in Hailey even though he met her at that premiere. Which, like, why was she at that premiere? She's not like, she's a Baldwin, but she's not really a celebrity in her own right to be there. But again, her father and her family, because of their connections in the industry, have made it convenient for Hailey to get to Justin. And we've seen some really awkward clips of these moments on the internet. Here's a clip from one of their early interactions.
Hey, Sean, my name's Steve. And the third song, how you doing, bro? It's my daughter, Hailey. The third song is... Yeah, we've been enjoying your music.
Thank you. I think I met you briefly.
The first song.
Airport, Detroit Airport.
Oh, yeah?
He met you when you first started out. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Your wife and you were like, we should do a movie in Detroit.
I could have been, man.
Now, we all know that Hailey started off as a super fan who then became a wife. Back in the days when Justin was with Selena, she was rather supportive of their relationship online because she was such a devoted fan of his. She even wrote at one point, I don't care what anyone says, but Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez together is the definition of a teenage dream.
Yes, sir. My Tricker. Back up in this thing, man. Today, I'm reacting to some creepy TikToks that'll leave you a little discombobulated. Let's get it.
Something extremely strange caught my eye when I was watching the Grammys last night. So Doja Cat pulled up and I noticed that she had a bunch of new tattoos. But one in particular caught my eye and it was the one on her forehead. And it reads Dilara Findikoglu. And when you look her up, she's a young fashion designer who puts spells and witchcraft into her clothing, and she even says it herself.
With my clothes, I kind of do witchcraft because I believe in reincarnation. Obviously, my spirit chose this body and knew it was going to be fashion designer.
The deeper you look into her artwork or clothing or designs, whatever you call it, everything is just super dark. She also hosted this dark themed Versailles party, and last year her runway was hosted in what looked like to be an abandoned church or warehouse. And I thought they played music during a runway show, but hers, she played the sound of water dropping. Listen to this.
Showing up to their Grammys with a Pelage and a Kaglu tattoo across your forehead is actually pretty tame for Doja Cat. Normally she would pull up with a full demon costume, so I guess we're making progress.
Nearly 40 million people across California are under flood advisories as a huge storm is just dumping record rainfall right now in the state. We're seeing many flooded streets. Reports of landslides already, bringing the landslides, of course, also bring a very different kind of threat to so many. Southern California facing the brunt of it right now. Hurricane-force winds are now added into the mix. They're being reported. And also more than 500,000 customers are without power. We'll see how that changes with those winds in play. The latest update shows 8 counties are under a state of emergency. We're going to show you video right here. This is of a helicopter rescue helping people that became stranded in Los Angeles County. Thank goodness for them.
I hope everybody out there is staying safe, but catastrophic flooding in Los Angeles County during this time of year does not seem typical. So before we write this off as a harp storm, can somebody from California please verify if this is normal or not?
Someone on Reddit just found what looks like an alien in their garden. So picture this very odd looking creature just went viral on Reddit. Now according to the poster, it was found in England and it was found in their friend's garden. Now, shortly after the picture was posted, it quickly spread all over Reddit, and everyone is trying to figure out just what this creature thing is. At first, many people thought that it might be some kind of root, until a picture of the creature at a new angle was released. Now, after seeing this picture, there's no denying this is some kind of creature. As you may notice, it has a chest. It also has what appears to be eyes, arms, legs, maybe a third leg right there if you see it. It also has a tail, you know, it's very alien-like. Now, since this specific angle of the creature came out, many people are debating the validity of the picture. Because if you look at this, it just looks way too stereotypical alien. I mean, down to the shape of the head and everything. It's very sci-fi looking, if that makes any sense. As of right now, I don't think that it's been confirmed real or fake yet. But what do you guys think about this Reddit alien?
I doubt that this is real because I've never seen a root that grows to look like a mix between E.T. and one of those worms from Men in Black. But if it is legit, then the Department of Agriculture is about to come knocking soon.
A suspected Chinese spy pigeon was released after 8 months of detention in India. Yes, you heard that right. A spy pigeon. Here's what happened. The suspected avian agent was captured back in May 2023 near a port in Mumbai, marked with words that appeared to be in Chinese. Police believed it was involved in espionage activities and took it in before sending it into a Mumbai animal hospital. In the end, it turned out the pigeon was an open water racing bird from Taiwan that had escaped and flown to India. The bird was sent to the Bombay Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals and set free by doctors this week. It's not the first time a bird has been suspected of espionage in India. The Associated Press reports that in 2016, another pigeon was detained after it was found with a note that threatened Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Homing pigeons have been used in spying and combat throughout history, including in both world wars. Some of them were even awarded military decorations like the French Croix de Guerre and the UK's Dickin Medal for their service in saving human lives.
Incarcerating a bird for 8 months for being a suspected spy is as paranoid as you can possibly be, bro. That pigeon did not deserve that.
If you've been looking for a reason to not come to Bali, this is it. Everywhere.
What a...
Like here.
This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm not exaggerating.
I might have to remove Bali from my bucket list of places to visit after this, bro. The brochures mention nothing about spiders lining the streets.
Hey, I'm just doing a quick little video here just to give people an idea of how much energy it takes to charge an electric vehicle. I'm at Electrify America. There's a 350 kilowatt station. I'm consuming roughly 137 kilowatts. It'll fluctuate. Sometimes I can go up to the full 350. But to put this into perspective, an average home consumes 1.25 kilowatts per hour. 135 kilowatts per hour. It's like the equivalent of 106 homes on the grid, just this one station. Now, if I was going to get the full 350 kilowatts like these can supply, That would be the equivalent of 280 homes. Now think about all 6 chargers running at full capacity. That's like 1,080 homes on the grid. Just a little food for thought. It's things people don't realize the amount of energy it takes to fast charge these batteries. It's a huge amount of electricity, and now you understand why the electric companies can't even supply that much power to one spot. It's like, think of 1,600 homes and how much copper and wire that would take to supply that many houses.
I find it ironic that the entire draw of electric vehicles is that they're supposed to be more sustainable than gas power, but charging one car versus 106 homes sounds like the opposite to me.
Did The Simpsons just predict the future again? So by now you've probably seen all the videos coming out of people using the Apple Vision Pro in public. Like this absolutely horrifying one of a man using it while driving his Tesla. But people are saying The Simpsons predicted this in an episode 8 years ago. And I want to tell you about all the spooky ways that episode mirrors real life. And if you're looking for other types of spooky stories, dark history, and mysteries, definitely check out my podcast. So 8 years ago, The Simpsons released an episode where there's a device known as the Froculus. And when you put it on, you can do things like change the faces of the people around you, which is currently not a feature of the Apple Vision Pro, but people are dreaming up what that would look like, and it doesn't feel like it's that far off. The episode also shows people using it to live in fantasy rather than reality, even though they're using it in their own lives. And one complaint that people have is that it seems like it's just a way to further disengage from our reality. Like everyone's going to walk around even more in their own bubble than we already are with our phones. Or this is going to be a place for us to be served ads in a capacity that we normally weren't able to receive ads, like while driving. Mostly The Simpsons is just trying to show people how stupid it would look if everyone was wearing these, but what do you think? Do you think you would ever get one?
The Simpsons have been eerily spot on with a lot of these predictions, but they must have Nostradamus writing scripts for how they nailed this one down, bro. Social interaction